Finding percent of change is the last learning target in Unit 2, Part 2. And we have a few definitions and things to discuss before we get to our examples. And the first one is actually percent of change. And that's just simply when you express an amount of change as a percent of what it originally was. So like sales tax, you have to pay more for an item once you get to the register, and when things are on sale, you get a discount. You will pay less than what the sticker price says. So those are actually the two other definitions there. Percent increase, which is when the new amount is greater than the original amount, and percent decrease when the new amount is actually less than the original amount. So three very simple definitions there. So let's look at percent of change a little bit further. Percent of change is a ratio, and you have the amount of change, whether it's an increase or decrease, over what the original amount was. This is how we'll find our percent. Now, increase and decrease have their own expressions to solve first before you start setting up your ratio. If you want to find the increase, you take the new amount minus the original amount because it has gone up. If it's a decrease, then you take the original amount minus the new amount because the new amount's actually less than. So that way you don't have any negatives when we talk about our percents. But this is how we're going to set up our ratios. The amount of the increase or decrease, whatever that subtraction, once you subtract, whatever you get for that difference is on the top, and the original amount will always be on the bottom. So let's look at this example. We have a coat that's on sale. So it's a sale. So what that should kind of clue you in, we've got something on sale. We're probably going to get to pay less for it than what we originally thought. The original price of the coat is $82. So I'm going to highlight that in yellow because that's the original price was $82. Then it goes on to tell me that the sale price is $74.50. Well, what I should be able to see here, and hopefully, when you're shopping, you do this, you're on your own. It was $82 and now it's on sale for $74.50. So I'm not having to pay quite as much for it, which is good. So ask yourself, is this an increase or a decrease? Well, this is a decrease. We were at 82, we've gone down to $74.50. Now, what we want to know is what is the discount as a percent change. We want to know what is the percent here that represents this decrease. So we're going to use this formula that we have over here, amount of decrease in this case over the original amount. So our amount of decrease, well, we don't know that. We know what the sale price is, but we don't know right now how much it decreased. So you've got to actually set that up before you ever start your ratio. 82 minus $74.50. This is going to tell us what the amount of decrease was. And for this problem, for this subtraction problem here, it's $7.50. That's how much off the ticket price the sale price is. So the original ticket price. So now I can set up my ratio. I have the amount of decrease, which is $7.50, over the original amount, which is what I highlighted in yellow there, which is 82. So you've just got a ratio. We're just going to simplify this. We're actually going to divide it out and figure out what this percent is. So if you divide $7.50 by 82, you do get a decimal that goes on forever. So let's round to the nearest hundredth. Keep in mind, hundredth is 2 decimal places. So 0.09. Now, that's the decimal, and we are wanting to know the percent. So we got to think backwards from what we did in the last video. We're going to go, instead of going from percent to decimal, we now have to go from decimal to the percent. So we've got to figure out what is 0.09 as a percent. Well, just like we had in the last video, you can use the shortcut. Instead of moving your decimal point to the left a couple of places, you're actually going to move it to the right a couple of places, which is the same thing as multiplying by 100 if you'd rather do that. But this is 9%. So not much of a sale. It's only 9% there. but that is the percent of change, 9%. All right, so I want you to take that and try this question for percent, and this actually does tell you percent decrease. All right, so let's look at what we have here in this problem. Hopefully you're checking your solution here. What did we start out with? Where are we starting? Well, in this problem, it tells us that the average monthly precipitation for Chicago, Illinois peaks in June. Okay, so June is our original amount because this is where it peaks at 4.1 inches. But by the time you get to December, you are down in December to 2.8 inches. So that's why they've given us this information here that this is a percent decrease. We started in June with our original 4.1 and we've dropped to 2.8. So what we need to figure out here is what is the percent decrease? Well, let's find out what the percent or what the amount of decrease is first. We started out with 4.1 in June and we've gone down to 2.8. So we got to figure out what is that amount of decrease. And when you subtract those, you get 1.3. So hopefully you are, at least to that point, you figured out the amount decrease. Now you just have to plug into your percent change formula. And it's just a ratio. Our amount decrease is 1.3, and our original amount was 4.1. So just like we did on the last problem, we just need to divide 1.3 by 4.1, and again round to the nearest hundredth, and that's going to give you 0.32. Be careful with your rounding. 0.32. What is 0.32 as a percent? That is 32%. So the percent decrease from June to December is 32%. All right, so let's look at another example. And this one is dealing with a guitar. So along the same lines, this person, or this store, I guess actually, has purchased a guitar from someone and they paid $295. So this store paid $295. That's actually our original amount. That's how much the store has invested in this guitar. But then it goes on to read that the store marks up the price. Okay, this happens all the time. They mark up the price of the guitar to $340. So is this an increase or a decrease? It's an increase. We have gone up from $295 to $340. Okay, they marked the price up. So we want to know what is the markup expressed as a percent change. Well, first what we need to know is how much did they mark this guitar up? How much money are they hoping to get off of this guitar, which is what they have to do in order to make money. So let's take the markup price, which is $340, and this is so we don't have to deal with negatives. $340 minus what they originally paid for it, which was $295. So if you take $340 and subtract $295, you're going to get $45. So they really only marked the guitar up $45. That's really how much they're hoping to make off of the guitar. Now, complete my 5 here. Now, we just need to set up our ratio. Our amount of increase here, because we went up, is 45, and the original amount of the guitar is $295. Even though it's less than what the new amount is, you always put it over the original amount. And when we divide that to the nearest hundredth, you get 0.15. And we want that as, that's what this is equal to, we want that as a percent, and that's simply 15%. So it was a 15% markup is what this store did with their electric guitar. Alright, so take this and pause your video and try this problem. Your turn 2. Alright, this one's a little bit different just because of the way it's worded, but it tells you that in 1 year, the toll for passenger cars to use a tunnel rose from $3 to $3.50. Rose from $3 to $3.50. So I'm not even going to highlight anything there because just what I have underlined is everything that we need. If it rose from $3 to $3.50, that means our original amount was $3. That's how much we used to pay. Now we have to pay $3.50. Well, let's think about this. I'm not even going to write this down because I really think that you all should be able to do this. How much did it increase? This should be very, very simple. The amount increase is 50 cents. That's easy. That's an easy one. That's how much it increased, was 50 cents. Now be careful. This is 50 cents, so make sure that you have your decimal point there. But now let's set up our ratio. I have 0.50 because that's how much it increased. It increased by 50 cents. Over the original amount, we were paying $3 to go through this tunnel. So let's find out what the percent increase is. So divide 0.50 by 3. 0.17 is what you get when you do your division there, and that is 17%. So a 17% increase from $3 to $3.50. All right. You need to move on to percent of change, video 2, and we're going to get into talking about percent error.